I'm Vicky O'Neon. We're at the London Palladium and you're watching Drummers Review.
Hello Drummers Review, it's Ollie Winiberg here and I am backstage with the legend that is Vicky O'Neon!
Hey,
yeah! How are you?
everybody.
How are you?
Hey.
Yeah! Backstage here in London at the London Palladium, and you're coming to the end of your tour with Anastacia. How has it been so far?
It's been amazing. Like mind-blowingly amazing. I think it's exceeded all of our expectations this whole tour. The band is absolutely killer, and we just had a day off yesterday, but we just kept missing each other the whole day because we just miss each other even when we have one day apart.
Yeah.
And we've been on the road for 2 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. So how did you, getting a gig with Anastacia is a big deal. How did you come to sort of start doing drums and percussion for her?
Yeah, so I've been doing drums for her for 2.5 years prior to this tour, and this tour I'm now on percussion. So how I got the gig 2.5 years ago, it was only a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks before the tour started. So it was a quite last minute thing.
Okay.
And it was because her then drummer, amazing drummer, Steve Barney, he had too many days in Europe because that was just when they had introduced, just after Brexit, when they had introduced these silly rules in Europe where you can only be there for 90 days during an 180-day period. And they realized that
Right,
tour
okay.
would exceed his days, which was crazy.
Yes.
Because that was very new at the time. So they just had to find another drummer very last minute. And I had been doing some work with the production manager prior to that. So she recommended me, and I spoke to the MD, and yeah, I found myself on a 3-month tour 3 weeks later.
So great.
Yeah.
So you're so full of energy, like within your personality, but also within your playing as well. How do you keep up so much personal and professional momentum all the time without burning out?
Good question. I mean, this is what gives me energy.
Yeah.
Like being on stage, playing to a live audience. Traveling is also a big passion of mine. So to be able to combine my passion for drums and my passion for travel and seeing new places, that's what gives me energy. So this is just like touring is the perfect combination of just life and energy for me, really. So it's easy.
And you don't ever seem burnt out at all. And
Oh, I was tired this morning. Don't get me wrong. Like
that's why you text me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
exactly. Yeah. But also, you know what? Actually, I find that I have more time when I'm on tour than I have any other time of my life, because I'm not really needed until 4 p.m. any day. So you can sleep in for as long as you want, which I never do when I'm at home, because then I would like to get up early and be, productive. And on tour, it's just like, no, it's okay. We can chill. We can have a chill morning and then go out and do a little bit of exploring. So I actually find that I get more sleep and more time off, weirdly, when I'm on tour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you obviously you've done a lot of collaborations over the years, and I know that you're an educator as well. Do you approach Anastacia's music differently from any other type of collaboration you've done, or do you have like a blanket rule for all session work?
I think every session you do is different, really, and it's all about how do you serve the music? What does the music require from you? Even this tour, comparing to the last tour we did, is very different. So when I first joined, the brief was very much like, okay, this is, it was her I'm Out of Lockdown tour.
Right.
And the brief was, let's play the album versions of the songs. So that's how you go in, and I was on kit then. So then you go in and you try to basically recreate the album records as close as you can. The brief for this tour was quite different. It was like, now it's her 25th year anniversary tour. She wants to switch things up. She wants to do things in a different way. So, okay, you can do whatever you want. And now I'm on percussion, and a lot of her songs don't even have percussion parts on them. So I got complete creative freedom to create my own parts. And I think that's how my whole rig also developed and became such a unique rig, because I was listening to the music and thinking, okay, what would work here? What would work here? And then I love hybrid electronic elements introduced into my drumming world as well. So then that's how I ended up with the rig that I'm currently using.
Cool. And it's a great rig, which we'll go and check out in a bit. Being an educator, do you think, and this probably sounds like a silly question, but is sight reading something that is important to an aspiring drummer, or is drumming a reflex instrument?
I think it really depends on the gig, again, on what type of work you're going for, also what type of learner you are. So I'm a very visual person, so I always make charts for myself for any gig that I'm doing, really, or mostly, especially if it comes to kids playing percussion, not so much, because it's a different world, I feel. I think it can never harm you to be able to read. That's always a strength, and certain jobs certainly require it. I also do another job where I'm playing in the house band for an American TV show called Name That Tune, where we do between 800 and 1,000 songs per season.
You're like a walking iPod.
So it's a lot of music.
Wow.
And for that job, you definitely, but I make my own charts, but you need to be able to at least make charts that you understand, that make sense to you. Wow. And I think that's just good anyways, to come up with systems, you know, that I think it's more important to come up with systems that work for you, because most of the time you would be the person that is gonna read the music, like just to memorize, especially if it's a big body of work that you need to get under your skin quickly.
1,000 songs per season, it's a
lot.
That is a lot.
It's such a rewarding job, because you cover so much different music. So my ears have grown so much since I started doing that gig.
So do you think that since doing that gig, you've said that your ears have grown, not physically, of course, but in the metaphorical sense?
Yes.
Has that turned you on to maybe music and songs and artists that you never thought you might listen to? And if so, what are you listening to that might surprise somebody watching this?
Definitely. Yeah, there's definitely songs that, although most of the songs are famous songs in that show. So one thing that definitely happens is that even if I've heard a song loads of times, when you end up doing it, then you need to analyze the parts to that great detail.
Yes.
You hear the song in a completely different way. You're like, oh my God, I never noticed that that's actually in that song that I've heard so many times. So that's one thing that happens, but definitely also so much music that I'm like, okay, why have I not known of this artist, and I need to explore this artist further. And it happens all the time that I hear a song on the radio that we recorded, or I hear another song by that same artist on the radio, and I know straight away that it's them, because I've sort of cracked the DNA of what that artist's sound is.
Yes, yeah. Do you think also that the introduction of the internet has made the kind of music industry more of a level playing field? Or do you think that perhaps the world was better before the introduction of Instagram and Spotify and things like that?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Equally both. The fact that we have access to anything we want to listen to, like that, today is incredible from an educational point of view, because you can just dive into anything. Like I never learned where I had to listen to a tape record or a vinyl, and I had to then scroll back and listen to it again. I always had access to the internet from when I started learning music. But saying that, anyone, like a lot of the people that I work with, they did grow up with that other way of learning and discovering music, and I think you digest it in a deeper way, in a more profound way, maybe the old school way. And also, when you don't have access to anything and everything at all times, you really get to know a record. You really get
and explore
to know
its DNA, as you were saying earlier.
Exactly, yes. I think that has then been lost in today's world. And obviously when it comes to Spotify and Pirate Bay, and like when all of that got introduced, this ruined so much of the industry, and even us as musicians, the work that we get, because there's just not as much money in it. You know, there's not as much money in touring. There's no money in selling music these days. So obviously that then ripples down to us as session players and the work that is available to us. And then introducing AI, which is now coming in.
Yes.
You know, how much of our work is going to be replaced by that, you know, over the next few years. That's a bit a scary one as well.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. I know that there's a massive question mark over AI, but with regards to like the internet and, you know, everything you were just touching on a moment ago, do you think that image is important for aspiring musicians, not just drummers in general? And I ask this because your brand is colour. You are Vicky O'Neon. You are colour, and you have one of the most notable looks in the industry. So, I think it's true. You think of a lot of drummers out there. You know, you've got, for example, you know, Terry Bozzio, who only wears black, Mike Portnoy with his blue beard, you with all your colours. Is that something that, you know, you've done consciously to maybe get more noticed, or is this just Vicky?
Yeah, I think there was a conscious decision. It was when I signed my first deal, which was with Premiere, which is now maybe 10, 12 years ago, something like that. And they asked me, do you have an artist name? And I was like, no, but maybe I should, because my last name is Österberg. That's a bit difficult to pronounce. And it's the same as Iggy Pop. Actually, his last name is Österberg. We are not related. But at the time, I was like, no, I can pronounce it. And wouldn't it be cool to have an artist name? Like, why not? So I just started to then think of, well, what could that be? Blah, blah, blah. And I've always loved colors. And then I ended up with O'Neon, O from my last name. Neon stands for no evidence of normal. But also the element neon was first discovered in London. I was living in London. That's where I got my career started. And I like colours. So
I linked the surname and the colour, but I didn't know everything else. That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I think it's important people, you know, try and stand out.
Yeah, I think yes and no. I mean, a lot of these other musicians that I work with on this tour, they are incredibly sought after musicians. Some of them could not care less or more about their online presence or any of those things, because I still think the word of mouth is how most people get work. But I've definitely found myself for many years being outside of those circles, and then you're like, well, how do I get into those circles so I can even show anyone that I can do a good job? And I think that transition is
So how did you do it? How did you get into those circles?
Well, I was lucky when I graduated from uni. I was taking drum lessons with Mike Dolbeer, and he put me forward for a gig with Hans Zimmer, or 2 gigs with Hans Zimmer at the Hammersmith Apollo, which was the first time that Hans Zimmer put together a full live show that you've now seen him tour the world with Holly Madge and Aisha Djali. So it was 6 of us drummers initially that did that gig. So that was a lucky opportunity that I got. And I guess because I had that one thing on my CV, and I think anyone that's capable of playing Hans Zimmer's music is put in a certain bracket of, okay, if they can do that, then we can probably book them to do this and this also. So that was a little bit of a lucky break. But then there was definitely like years after that where I didn't really have any like big opportunities come my way, and that's when I made a conscious effort of like, okay, I need to put myself out there. I need to just I started going to lots of jam nights. That was one way of just starting to get work in London in general, just to get some money for what I was doing, and then just build my brand. And in my case, I did try to start building an online presence so there could be a portfolio online where people could also see what I do.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. I mean, we've spoken about touring the world, your relationship with social media, getting into the right circles, the right cliques. What for you so far in your career? You've played with people like Hans Zimmer up to Anastacia. What's been the biggest Spinal Tap moment of your career? Obviously, you haven't spontaneously combusted, which is great. That's obviously quite helpful.
Might happen tonight. Who knows?
Nice. But what has happened where you've kind of thought, oh, this could be on the next Spinal Tap film?
Oh my God, that's a difficult question. I don't know if I've had any like disastrous moments like that. Nothing comes to my mind at the moment. I'm sure I will get in touch afterwards and be like, oh my God, I forgot to tell you this happened, blah, blah, blah. I can't think of anything. But this is just like, this is not really a Spinal Tap moment because it's not a fun moment. But we were doing a gig in Finland with Anastacia, which is like, that's where I'm from. So it was the first time I've gone back home and done a big gig. So loads of my family and friends were in the audience. It was a big festival. And my pack, I was wearing it in my jeans and the volume just kept going down to zero. And there's nothing worse than when you're playing and obviously you're relying on, we play to click tracks, so you are the one who is providing the time for the rest of the band. And when your hands are stuck, you don't really have time to like keep fiddling with your pack at the back, of your jeans. So that was definitely a moment where I was like, gosh. And then we also had moments where the tracks just stop in the middle or like I haven't heard the click or whatever, and then you just have to like rely on your internal clock and just go, okay, this is it. I know where we are. When there is like no other element that is giving you time. It's just your internal clock that have to get you through. And then you get to the other side and you were like, I think I did all right. Yeah. Okay, that worked. And that's where you have to just rely on like your years of practice and Yes.
Do you think that playing to a backing track and playing to click loses that humility from a live show, or do you think that it's just something that's been accepted into live music now?
I don't think it loses it. Definitely not. Obviously, it depends on what you have on track. Like if you have too many elements on track, so the track is driving the band and not the other way around, then that can happen. And I think you can tell from an audience perspective, even if you're not aware of it, that it just doesn't feel the same. But when you just have a little elements, like we need a click track here just for the time code to control the lights alone. So some of the songs we have here, we only have a click track, so the lights will play in time with what we're doing, but that's it. There's nothing else, and it's always just trying to keep whatever you have on track to a minimum. And if there's any little elements that we literally physically can't do live, then you put them on track just to enhance the performance. But I think most certainly in this context of what we're doing here, it's only enhancing the performance.
Experience,
sometimes maybe you fail when the band is really driving and going for it, that you would want to go like a couple of BPM faster and then you're tied into that to that click. But that would be, I think I'd say, like the only downside maybe.
No,
and also with Ableton, that's why I love using Ableton Live, and I'm such a like Ableton geek and Ableton head, and I programmed all the playback that we're using here, and I'll show you my other little Ableton rig that I have on stage, controlling different effects for my percussion and stuff like that. But Ableton actually gives you freedom live to then also not be tied into a specific structure if you don't want to be. If you might want to run a chorus 3 times one night and 5 times another night, depending on the crowd interaction. With Ableton, all of that is very possible. Yeah.
That's so incredible how it's incredible how technology has advanced so much. And I know we touched upon AI earlier, and there's a big question over that. But even doing something like that, feeding off the crowd interaction live, that's really cool. Obviously, stranger to the drumming community. Everyone loves you.
You've got the drumming community. It's like a big warm hug, right?
I've seen you, a UK drum show. I know you've got a big presence in that sort of family. What do you think makes the drumming community so special? I mean, jokingly, you said it feels like you get a big warm hug, but it's true, isn't it?
It really
there's
is.
no other community like it.
I think it's a specific type of person that gets attracted to the drums, playing the drums. Because if you think about the drummer's position, the drummer's role on stage is to provide a solid foundation for everyone else, for the music. So you can't really have a massive ego if that's what you're naturally drawn to. And I think that's just it within the drum community. There's no massive egos. No. Drumming, the purpose of drumming is it goes back so far, you know, in our societies, and it's always had a role, a religious role, to just connect people. For as long as we can remember. And I think that is what we still feel, you know, within the community. We just want to connect, we want to share, we want to help each other, we want to just, you know, raise each other up as much as we can. And still, if we look at the drum community, we're still a very small community comparing to the rest of the big world. So we want to stick together.
We have to look after each other.
We have to, exactly.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us here at Drummers Review, obviously backstage at London Palladium. You're nearly at the end of your tour. I know that we're going to see you a lot more in the future within the drumming community. Can I just ask you one final question? What is the best piece of advice you could give an aspiring drummer of any age, any ability, whether they've stumbled across you and I chatting by accident, or whether they are a fan of your music or Anastasia's music or anything else that you've done? What would you say to somebody who is absolutely dedicated to their craft and wants to climb the next step on that ladder?
Come to the UK Drum Show.
You actually should.
But that's one little tip, because that's where you actually, first of all, get a feeling of this community, which inspires you, and you meet so many people, that can potentially open up doors for you. You never know. But also, if you're at home, seek out what you love doing. Musically, what gets you going, and because there's no point trying to be the best at everything if it's something that you actually don't enjoy doing, and we can't be amazing at everything we're doing, especially not when we're first starting out. And that can sort of help you to create a little niche for yourself. In my world, my little niche has become hybrid drumming, electronic, how to incorporate electronics into what you're doing, because I realized that that's actually something that I love. I love to combine. And I think actually today, as a drummer as well, is quite important to learn how to incorporate some of those elements into your skill set, because so much music today, the drums are programmed.
Yes.
And the drum production can be such a huge part of the sound, the identity of song. So then if an artist wants to do something live, and there's still so many drummers that don't really know how to do any of those things, and if you then have a skill set where you can promote yourself as a drummer that can actually authentically recreate electronic drum productions live, then maybe you get the gig. Because of that. So yeah.
That's amazing. Vicky, congratulations on such an amazing tour, getting the gigs that you've got, and just being this absolute fireball of positivity. And we will see you very soon.
Yes. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you for coming. So we're doing our last 2 shows of a 2-month tour with Anastacia here, and this is the kit that I've been using for the tour. It's super fun, loads of toys happening here. So most of the gear is LP percussion. I got my Eddie Montalvo congas, bongos. I got a little timbale. I got a Dixon 10-inch snare drum, and then I got just a bunch of smaller percussion sounds. And then I also have these custom-built drums that Dixon built to me on a very short notice. I wanted to have something big that I could hit up here, and I told them, I gave them a very specific and weird brief, and I was like, can you build something that is very high up in the air? Initially I actually had a massive heart-shaped rack that they were hanging from, but that took up too much space from the backdrop, so now they are just coming off these poles here. and I have triggers attached to them. So depending on what songs we're playing, I have different type of samples, like big taiko drums, like massive impact drums that I'm hitting these on. So that's a really fun part of the show. Definitely adds to the show a lot. I'm running the show from the Roland SPD-SX. So from here, I'm starting all the tracks. And I have a bunch of triggers. So the triggers up here is connected to this one. I also have a trigger on my tambourine. That's not something you see very often. It's by a Swedish company called What the Fuck Percussion. And what that means is that I can add specific reverb effects to my tambourine sound, something that I think every percussionist would always want to do. So if we have a big power ballad, we have the big power ballad reverb added. And I also have a cajon pedal that I've actually attached to the tambourine, so I can play it with my foot. So if I'm busy playing congas, I can also play my tambourine at the same time, which is amazing. I have my KT10 pedal. I have a cowbell on here for certain songs, so I can play cowbell and congas at the same time. Then I have the BT1 bars, where I have a bunch of different samples depending on what songs we're doing, so I can also play samples and congas at the same time. Here I have a clap stack, and I also actually have a clap stack trigger on that, which is really cool. So all my claps I'm playing from here. Then these two are also by What the Fuck Percussion. This is called a chain chime. You can't hear it now, but I have all of this connected to Ableton, and I have a bunch of effects that's running through Ableton. So depending on what song we have, I'm adding different effects to this one. This one sounds like airy, fairy, swooshy, and just adds like cool ambient effects to certain songs. This one is called the Reco Electro. It's kind of like a spring reverb. You can also put it on your snare drum, but you can add loads of really cool effects. So again, depending on, in Ableton, it's just endless what you can do. But these just have like audio jack inputs basically, and then you just whack loads of effects on them. So I really customize specific sounds for specific songs, which is awesome. I also have this mic connected to my interface running through Ableton as an effect mic. So if I want to add any effects to any of my hand percussion, I can also do that. And I'm opening that mic by pressing down this here. So it's only picking up sound when I'm pressing that. So I have some like ping pong delays and effects like that, depending on what the songs are. And what else? Yeah, in general, this has been like a real game changer to have. I basically just MIDI mapped, and it's Axel Fagerberg, who runs What the Fuck Percussion. He actually came over to London for a couple of days before we started this tour, and he helped me to set up all this like super hybrid cool rig. We've MIDI mapped the different instruments to be turned on and off depending on what song we're playing. I also have a cabasa that actually has a jack input, so there's no bleed when I'm playing my cabasa, and I'm using that quite a lot. And I have a wah-wah effect pedal for my cabasa, so I can do really cool sounds like that. Also my shaker, jack input direct in, so even though I have a super soft shaker, the sound engineer a front of house engineer gets a super clear signal from me directly from here. And those are basically on and off switches for these different instruments. So whenever I want to play the cabasa, now it's on, now it's off. Shaker, same thing. So yeah, a quite custom setup. And that's what's made it so fun to prep for this whole gig. And the band is absolutely killer. We're having the best time every night. We're now on show 36, I think. So it's been a good run, and there will be more in the summer. So yeah, that's my kit.